Today we're taking a moment to appreciate a camera that, despite being released back in April of 2018, still holds its ground in 2025, the Sony A7 III. Now we all know that tech moves fast. Cameras evolve, specs get better, and new features are introduced almost every year. But sometimes the gear that lasts is the gear that was simply done right, and the Sony A7 III is a great example of that. So I want to go ahead and take some time in order to review the Sony A7 III, which I have owned since May of 2020. This has been my go-to camera for many years up until the beginning of this year, 2025, when I upgraded to the Sony FX30. I told myself that I was going to go ahead and sell the Sony A7 III once I upgraded to the Sony FX30. Because of the quality that you're able to capture with this camera, I decided to keep it because it was a good camera to use as a B cam or just as a run and gun, throw in your backpack type of camera. I believe that the Sony A7 III is underrated, especially nowadays with all these fancy cameras such as the Blackmagic Pixis, Canon R5 Mark II, Sony FX3. There's a whole bunch of new cameras that have came out into the market that have drowned out tons of cameras that are perfectly fine and definitely usable and still have amazing features just because they're older models and everybody wants the newest shiny thing. I'm going to run through a couple of features that make the Sony A7 III stand out even now in 2025. It comes equipped with a 24.2 megapixel full frame sensor that is backlit. You have 693 phase detection autofocus. You also have autofocus for both human and animal eyes, which works perfectly fine under tons of different situations. The Sony A7 III can record up to 4K in 24 frames per second and 30 frames per second, and it also comes equipped with a dual SD card slot. It has an in-body 5-axis image stabilization for the sensor, and especially when paired with the 28 to 70 millimeter kit lens that comes with the Sony A7 III, you're going to get some pretty good smooth footage even when shooting handheld. The battery that the Sony A7 III comes with is a Neewer battery that is used in both the FX30 and FX3 cameras. Yesterday, I ended up going on a hike with my Sony A7 III and my family to capture some test footage to overlay throughout this video. I only ended up taking one battery and was able to shoot tons of footage. The battery only drained about 20%. The overall hike took us about 4 hours, so I was continuously turning on and off the camera, and the battery life lasted well beyond what I needed it to. The Sony A7 III is also weather sealed. It comes with a magnesium alloyed body. This is great, especially if you're using it the way that I do, where I just grab the camera, don't have to worry about putting it in a camera bag. I just throw it into any backpack that I'm going to be using throughout the day, and I don't have to worry about the camera getting damaged or anything getting scuffed up. I haven't dropped this camera, but it's lasted me 5 years and it works perfectly fine without any issues. So the body is built to last, and it has lasted, and it will continue to last for many years to come. The video quality that you're able to capture with the Sony A7 III is amazing. I've been able to use this camera to shoot with larger clients such as American Cancer Society, Solomon, and then also Hoka. So one thing that does really help me capture amazing footage with the Sony A7 III is I shoot in S-Log2. If you own a Sony A7 III or plan on purchasing a Sony A7 III, I have a couple of tutorials on my YouTube channel. I'll make sure to go ahead and link them to this video, but ultimately that's what's going to help your footage stand out. You're capturing 4K footage up to 30 frames per second, and then the flexibility that you get with the 8-bit footage is amazing when post color correcting. You're able to really get some pretty good details throughout your footage, but then also shooting in S-Log2 makes sure that the dynamic range that you capture with your video is fully flexible to what you need it to be when post color correcting. You hold tons of details in both your highlights and your shadows, and if you're able to properly expose your footage, it's going to exceed any expectations anyone may have had. One of the major selling points for me when it comes to the Sony A7 III is that you're able to get a full frame camera sensor with in-body stabilization that shoots in 4K up to 30 frames per second, along with the Sony 28 to 70 millimeter kit lens, all for under $1,700. And that's brand new pricing. You can go ahead and find plenty of options with both of those items well underneath $1,700 on the used market. One of the things that you need to take into consideration is that the Sony A7 III really outperforms all the cameras within the time frame of it being released, which was back in 2018. But then it also continues to perform well beyond many people's expectations, hence on why Sony still manufactures this camera and is selling brand new camera options for the Sony A7 III up until this day. They have came out with the Sony FX30, the Sony FX6, the Sony A1, the Sony FX3, and still to this day they continue producing the Sony A7 III. But on top of that, the demand that this camera gets. Many people still continue to purchase this camera till this day because it's an amazing hybrid camera. You're able to capture amazing video footage with it, but then also capture some amazing photography with it using the 24.2 full frame sensor. One of the things that I can't stress enough with the Sony A7 III, but then also just any camera in general, is that you don't have to rely on the newest features and the newest specs when it comes to purchasing a camera. Yes, of course, the camera options are unlimited nowadays, especially when looking at all camera companies and all the manufacturing that's happening for cameras within those companies. But the most important thing that I believe is going to take you well beyond where you want to be when it comes to recording footage using a camera or just making cinematic videos for either yourself, your family, or clients is properly understanding your camera settings. A lot of people have cameras and choose to continue upgrading their cameras without fully understanding the camera that they currently own. I could have simply chosen to upgrade my Sony A7 III a long time ago, but instead of continuing to shoot in Rec. 709, I taught myself how to shoot in S-Log2 and what the benefits are with shooting S-Log2, then also taking the time to properly understand aperture and how that affects your videos, along with ISO, base ISOs, what's the best ISOs to use, and shutter speed. What shutter speed should you be using, and also what other effects can you get by manipulating your shutter speed and your aperture as well. So if you're looking into purchasing the Sony A7 III, the items that I recommend aside from the body and the kit lens or any lens that you choose to go with is going to be a set of microphones, whether that's a boom mic or a set of Rode mics similar to the one that I'm holding here, and then also a variable ND filter. Literally, those are going to be the only items that you will need in order to capture some amazing footage. The variable ND filter is going to be a lifesaver because you want to make sure you're shooting at a set shutter speed and a set aperture, and you want to properly expose your footage. Some of my final thoughts when it comes to the Sony A7 III is that I personally believe it's not necessarily the camera, but the person behind the camera when it comes to capturing amazing footage. If you take the time to properly learn all the settings and understand everything when it comes to video recording and aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and all the different settings within your camera, that is going to help you out a ton, especially when you're put out into the field when shooting with clients or shooting stuff for yourself. You're going to be able to learn what you actually need to do in order to achieve what you want. So take the time to learn your camera settings, whether it's with the Sony A7 III, FX30, or any camera that you currently own, and that's going to help you out a ton in the long run. So as a Sony A7 III owner in 2025, I definitely recommend getting this camera even with the kit lens, because it's going to be a camera that is both affordable in comparison to tons of cameras out in the market nowadays, but also the quality that you're able to capture with this camera will far surpass any expectations that you may have had. But if you do have any questions, feel free to go ahead and leave them down below in regards to the Sony A7 III or any of the settings that I use. And feel free to check out some of my other videos showcasing some of the footage that I've been able to capture with the Sony A7 III. Thank you guys for watching. I'll go ahead and see you guys next time.